Now we're going to modify the junction board, and the first thing we need to do is we need to cut these two tabs off. And to do that, I'm going to just screw it to the side of a table. And so now we're going to take just a hacksaw and we're going to cut these tabs off flush. So we'll vacuum this all up and then we'll mount this to the tray. And to do that, we're going to grab these 3 bolts that we saved earlier that were actually in this same location. And we're going to put these bolts through the bottom here. And then we're going to stand the junction board up. There's 3 holes here, and we're going to put these with that. And we're going to take and thread on these nuts that come with the kit. If you push the bolt all the way through, then the nut might not fit, so you might need to pull it back just a little bit. Once we get these loosely installed, we can just take a 10mm and also a 10mm open-ended wrench and just tighten these up. Next, we're going to attach the MCM, and to do that, we're going to find this MCM E connector, and this is going to go towards the back and down, and it's going to basically attach right here. And to do that, we're going to take the 2 longer standoffs that we set aside earlier. So what we'll do is we'll turn this and we're going to put 2 of the Phillips head pan screws in, no washers, and we're going to just thread these long standoffs in. If you're doing the plus 40% hack, you need to install it now. So once this is in the car, it's not like in the OEM where you can just unscrew the top cover. It's going to be here, there's going to be modules here. And we need to tighten these threaded standoffs like that. They don't need to be super tight, just snug. Then what we'll do is we're going to drop it down, and you need to make sure that if you look down this direction, both the holes line up. Right now they don't. This hole is going too far that way. So I need to loosen this again. And then I'm going to kind of just move the head this way. There's actually a little bit of room in there so we can adjust these as needed. So I'm going to look again. That looks good. So once I've got that looking good, I'm going to take the other 2 panhead Phillips, and there's 2 washers here, and we'll go ahead and tighten this all the way. Okay, so now we're going to modify the junction board itself. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this entire bus bar. I've already pre-loosened all of the screws on here. In general, these screws are pretty tight. They will be tighter than you see here. Okay, now we're going to take and pull this terminal out, and make note of this bottom right terminal. We're going to break that off. So we're going to take this guy and grab it with a needle nose plier, and we're going to break this tab off. And then we're going to reinstall this bus bar. Now we're going to reattach this wire here. Next, we're going to attach the LiBCM HVDC power input. And that is this cable right here. It's got a red and a black Anderson. And we're going to first hook up this black Anderson. And this is going to slide through below these 2 relays and just keep coming through here. And it's going to go underneath anything it has the option of going underneath. And then we're going to take and attach both the HVDC DC negative and the LiBCM negative to this post. Next, we're going to hook up the LiBCM HVDC positive. That is the red wire here, and it's going to slide through here, and then it's actually going to come down between the 2 spade connectors on this resistor, and we're going to connect it right here to the bottom screw. There's other stuff that's going to be attached to this screw, so we'll just take that off for now. Now we need to remove the HVDC positive bus bar, and to do that, we need to remove a screw down here. And then we also need to remove these 2 screws on the battery current sensor. So we'll kind of just pull this up, pull our bus bar out, and then we'll reinstall these 2 screws. So next we're going to take the HVDC positive cable, and this has a blue Anderson connector on one side, and on the other side it says Junction HVDC positive. We're going to take this cable, stick it in this hole from the back, and then stick it through the battery current sensor. And the goal is that it attaches right here. And now we're going to take, and this guy that we just routed through is going to be closest to this contactor. And we're going to take the other 3 cables here and put them on in any order. And we're going to screw all those on. Next, we're going to take the HVDC negative cable, which on one end says junction HVDC negative, and the other side says 1 minus upper front. And we're going to take and slide this underneath the HVDC positive cable. And once we get this through, it's going to go underneath these two cables and also the spade terminal there. And then you're going to have to help feed it through. And we're going to turn and go underneath this bus bar, over this orange colored cable, and then we're going to drop under that same cable like that. So now that we have this roughly in place, we need to pull the cable out slightly. And so I just have maybe 3/4 of an inch here, and we're going to slide under this guy, and we need to remove this screw. And we're going to attach this to it. As we tighten this screw, we need to make sure that the hole up top will still thread as well. Next, we're going to remove the fuse and this bus bar. We don't reuse this bus bar. I like to remove the HVDC DC power input so that we don't accidentally cut into it. And so to do that, we're going to take this tab off, and then you're going to take a flathead and push in on the tabs on the back of this. Once we've done that, we'll kind of just pull this out and just tuck it under here for now, just so it's out of the way. Now we're going to remove this bus bar with a number 3 Phillips. And we don't reuse that, although we do reuse the screw, so keep that around. I also recommend removing this capacitor bank here just temporarily so that we don't accidentally nick it with a saw or a cutter. If you are using the plus 40% current hack, you are using a much larger fuse and it doesn't actually mechanically fit here. So what we need to do is we need to remove all of this material between this face and that face where the bolts mount. And so we're going to just cut all this out. I'm going to start with a hacksaw, and I'm going to move to a horizontal cutter and also a vertical cutter and also some pliers, and just kind of keep attacking this material until this fuse fits in. One note as you're fitting this, the fuse goes underneath this bus bar, which is different than the OEM behavior. So make sure that this fits all the way with the bus bar on top. And now that we have the fuse in there, we'll vacuum this out. Now we'll reattach this capacitor bank if you removed it. Now we'll install the fuse, so either the OEM fuse underneath the bus bar, or if you're doing the plus 40% current hack, the larger fuse under this bus bar. And then we're going to take and install this bolt and leave it loose. Now we're going to take the cable that's marked 4 minus upper middle on one side, and the other one is junction fuse. And we are going to slide this cable through this hole. And the junction fuse side will attach to the fuse, and you'll need to add a little bit of a bend to it. Make sure this junction bar is on top. If it's not, then these two edges won't be coplanar, and when you tighten this down, it will break your fuse. Now we'll take the cable that's marked 3 plus lower middle and junction switch, and this is going to slide below the junction fuse, and then it routes behind this cable, but on top of that cable. So it's going to look like that. And we'll take our number 3 Phillips, remove the screw in here, and we're going to attach this. We need to modify these plastic covers before we reinstall them. So I've labeled what we need to cut off. You can see this is the OEM piece, and then we're going to cut right along this seam. Now I recommend using a saw because this plastic is really brittle. So we'll cut this first piece. We also need to take a needle nose plier and just take a small section out of this piece here. Just something like that. We've made this notch a couple millimeters taller. And then we're going to do the same thing on the switch bus bar covers, this is the OEM, and then this is the LiBCM. You can see we're gonna cut this corner all the way off, basically up through here and around. And then we're gonna cut this off. So we're gonna come around on this face, and then we're gonna go all the way to that face right there. So we're gonna come around this corner, and then we're gonna come up there. I'm gonna come up first. And now we're gonna attach our two modified covers. And finally, we'll put the HVDC-DC input back in. We need to snap this tab in. And the last thing we need to do is we need to remove these two relays. And that is the junction board.